Welcome to another video of the Fantasy Premier League 2022-23 season. In this one guys, we're gonna break down some key dilemmas and give you some final tips before the Game Week 3 deadline. Now let's start with the first one of the most popular ones for this game week guys. Should we use the wildcard in Game Week 3? I think that's a very important question that a lot of FPL managers are asking themselves this week. Now before pressing that wildcard button, I think we should ask ourselves a couple of questions. First one has to be, how far are we from the ideal team that we want for our FPL game guys? If we are, let's say, about 4 or 5 transfers away, and if there's a chance that we probably cannot make those transfers by maybe taking a couple of hits, and we're still quite far from that template team, from the team that we actually want for, let's say, Game Week 3 or even beyond, then I think it makes a bit of sense to kind of use the wildcard early on. But let's say if you're only about a couple of transfers away from the template team, from the ideal team, or from whatever team that you want, I think in that case, I think it should be fine. You should probably save your wildcard. One of the most important pros of saving this wildcard is that when there'll be a lot of fixture swings, when there will be rotation, there'll be midweek games, there'll be Champions League games as well, I think we would probably need that wildcard. There will be certain picks that we are pretty sure of right now who are kind of nailed, who might not be the same at that moment, and I think that is when the wildcard really comes into play. So if you use the wildcard a bit early, I think you can leave yourself a bit exposed to a later situation where a lot of FPL managers might use it and you might be at a disadvantage. So to summarize guys, I think there's no right or wrong answer here. Look at your team, look at the transfers, look at the players that you want for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, and then assess and make that call. Now let's get to the second one guys. Is it worth selling Robertson and getting Diaz with 2 free transfers, maybe even for a hit, for example, this week? Now this is one dilemma I think a lot of managers have this week, and I know a lot of players, a lot of managers have already made this move. So is it really worth it? I think that's one of the very important questions. So my earlier thoughts right now guys is that Robertson is not a bad pick all of a sudden. Liverpool is not a bad defense all of a sudden. But yes, if you want to make that switch, there's a couple of merits to it. I mean, there are a couple of good points towards that side. Let's say if you want to downgrade a Robertson to maybe a slightly cheaper option, that might give you some money to get to a Diaz. Of course, Diaz is the second attacker for Liverpool. Right now, we know that Nunes is not going to play for the next 3 fixtures. And Diaz is pretty much nailed in that Liverpool attack, guys. I don't think so Jota is nearing a return just yet. So he will get chances, he will get attacking returns. Especially with how Firmino plays, he will try to get in Diaz and Salah into the game, and they will get a lot of chances. So there is merit in going for a Diaz. Now, if you have 2 free transfers, of course, you can probably easily do it. If you, let's say, don't have any other fires to put out, I think it's probably worth it. If you want to probably take a hit for it and then do it, I am a little edgy about it. I don't think so it's worth a hit. I mean, you can probably wait, maybe save a transfer if you have a couple. Maybe you can do this move next week. That's also an option, but I just don't feel it's worth a hit. But yes, the idea of downgrading a Robertson, I think it's absolutely fine if you can make advantage of that fund as well, right? Let's say if you're not going for a Diaz, if you just want to downgrade Robertson, I think that also is a potential option, because let's say if you don't have a James, which was my scenario, my case for this week, I didn't have James. So if you want to get towards a James, I think that's a viable strategy because James has a lot of attacking potential. Chelsea has decent fixtures for a clean sheet. I mean, yes, Man City probably has better games, etc. But I think you can get to a James. Maybe you can even get to a Cucurella. But the more important point here is that you should probably understand how you would utilize that extra money. I mean, where that extra money goes is really, really important, guys. Because if you're not really using that money, maybe you're making certain upgrades which aren't really that great, then maybe having Robertson still kind of makes sense. But again, at the end of it, if you want to make this switch from a Robertson to Diaz, I think it's worth it. With 2 free transfers as well, I think it's okay. With a hit, I'm still not very sold on that. Now let's move on to the third dilemma, the next dilemma that a lot of FPL managers have this week. Which defender should we buy? Should we go for Cucurella? Should we go for Walker? I think this is a very relevant question that FPL managers are facing in Game Week 3. Now I know a lot of managers are trying to get away from a cash, for example. Maybe they're trying to switch Trippier to another option, and we have a couple of really good options to go for. We have Cucurella from Chelsea. Chelsea have looked a little bit better, in fact a lot better than what they were looking at in terms of pre-season. I think Cucurella, especially for the next few fixtures, I think he's pretty much nailed. We've heard from Tuchel that Chilwell is probably not fit enough to start games, and he will definitely get minutes. But I think for the next 3 or 4 fixtures, maybe even lesser, I think Cucurella might be okay. Yes, it's a short-term punt, and I'm calling it a punt because there is risk with minutes, guys. There is risk with rotation. So he's definitely a punt, but I think in the next 3 or 4 fixtures, he should be nailed. We know that he has attacking potential. He will be on set pieces, so he can get goals, he can get assists. So there is definite FPL potential there. And I think if you're slightly risking, or if you're maybe slightly going for a riskier strategy, I think Cucurella is a decent option to go for. But for sure, it's a short-term punt. Now, when you talk about Walker, on the other hand, is probably a slightly safer option because you probably wouldn't really expect him to get out of the team. I think he's been doing okay. He's been playing decent as an inverted wingback. But having played in that position, he's not really providing any attacking threat, any goal threat. So you're not going to get any attacking returns. He's probably not going to hog bonus points. But if you just want a clean sheet, if you want a cheaper option, because I genuinely feel that Man City has better potential, has better fixtures for clean sheets. I think they're a much more capable team than a Chelsea right now to keep clean sheets. So if you just want a boring option, if you just want a safe option, I think Walker is pretty much your guy, guys. I think you should go for him. So you kind of choose between the two. In case if you want to go riskier, you go Cucurella. In case if you want to go a bit safer, you go Walker. Now let's move on to the next dilemma. The next tip that should be very, very important for Game Week 3 is what are the best replacements for a Neto or a Bailey. Now, I think that it is very important to kind of segregate both these options because they are at a different price point right now. Bailey has also kind of gotten a price decrease. So he's 4.9 million at the moment and he's not even in that 5 million midfielder range anymore. So I think we kind of have to segregate that. I personally don't feel that Neto is a priority sell this week. If you can hold him, I mean, it's okay to even play him against Spurs. I don't think so. It's a really bad option. So probably we'll talk about Neto separately. Now, if you want to get rid of Bailey, there are a couple of options to go for. If you have some money in the bank, so the first option is that you have some money in the bank. And let's say if you have some money, you maybe go for a Pascal Gross, who's been really good for Brighton, who's playing in an attacking position. He's on set pieces. He should probably be on penalties as well. But there's a slight threat that because of the new signing that Brighton have done as their left back, I think Trossard might be pushed up the field a little bit. So that might be a bit concerning in terms of Pascal Gross owners because then we don't know what his position is going to be. Maybe he shares minutes. Maybe he gets reduced attacking potential as well. So there is that slight threat that exists. But I think if you have that much money, if you have about 5.6 million, I think he's a great option to go for. If you have more than 6 million and if you're probably looking at a slightly long-term punt and if you want to punt on an attacking team, then we have Leeds. We have Rodrigo from Leeds as well. I think he's also a decent option to go for. I personally prefer Pascal Gross a little bit because Brighton, I think, are a better balanced overall team. They're probably going to score goals. Maybe not as much as Leeds, maybe. But I think Brighton has the potential to do well. I think Leeds has a lot of attackers, so the attacking potential might be shared in that regard. But again, Rodrigo, Pascal Gross, these are decent options to go for. Of course, if you don't have Martinelli, you go for Martinelli. I think he's the best. He's still the best budget midfielder in that price category, in the 6 million price category. Other than that, if you want to downgrade, then you have a Da Silva, for example, from Brentford, who's probably again is at the risk of minutes at the moment because there's Damsgaard as well. And I think Damsgaard will be featuring a lot more in the Premier League. So there is that slight risk, but again, he's very cheap at the moment. In case if you really want to go very cheap, then you probably go Pereira. If you already have Pereira, then you probably downgrade to a different 4.5 million midfielder who's probably going to be a dud player who's probably not going to play in your midfield for most weeks. Personally, I don't like the other options at 5 million. Of course, a lot of people are talking about Eze. A lot of people are talking about Dewsbury Hall from Leicester as well. But I just don't see a lot of potential in these players, guys. If we see enough or if we get more information, maybe they can become options right now. But whatever we know, whatever information we have at the moment, I think these are the best options to go for. If you probably have a little bit more money as well, and if you want to replace Neto, again, you can go for a Pascal Gross, you can go for a Rodrigo as well. I think these are good options to go for. Now let's move to the next one, guys. The next dilemma that a lot of FPL managers have this week is that they got Darwin Núñez and he got a red card. So he's going to be suspended for the next 3 fixtures. So who should you get in place of Darwin Núñez? I think that's the golden question. Now there are alternate strategies to kind of go for in terms of which pick to go for. Of course, if you want to downgrade a little bit, you can probably go for an Ivan Toney. I think he's a great option to go for. I think Brentford have really good fixtures. They're going to be a lot more attacking. We know that Ivan Toney is on penalties. We know that Ivan Toney can also create goals apart from scoring them as well. So I think there's a lot of potential in Ivan Toney. I think he's that focal point of that Brentford attack and he's going to do pretty well. In case if you probably are looking at an alternate strategy, you maybe go towards a cheaper striker. Let's say you go towards a 4.5 striker. and then you can make significant upgrades in your defense. Let's say if you want to go big at the back, that's an option for you. If you want to upgrade anyone in your midfield, that's also an option for you. So there are alternate strategies to go for. But of course, if you want to downgrade Darwin Núñez to a different attacker, I think Tony has to be the most standout option. You can possibly look at Jesus. If you don't have Jesus, I think you should definitely have Gabriel Jesus in your team. There's also a route where you have, let's say, additional money and you probably go towards a Haaland or a Kane. But I personally don't think so. A lot of people would be having that much money in the bank to make that certain upgrade unless you take out some other player. So that's the strategy there. I think Tony is a decent option to go for. I think if you want to play a front three, a three up top, I think Tony would do really well this week. So coming to the final dilemma for Game Week 3, guys, which one is the best captain for Game Week 3? Which is the best captaincy option? I think it's going to be pretty close between Salah and Jesus in terms of absolute FPL returns. At least I feel so. There would be a lot more owners for a Salah than a Jesus because Jesus is probably not a premium striker. Of course, he's playing like a premium striker, but he's probably priced a lot lesser than that. Let's say if he was probably priced at 10 or 11 million, I think a lot more people would be jumping on that Gabriel Jesus captaincy, guys. He's been really playing well. He's on fire for Arsenal. He's making that Arsenal tactic, which is really good to see. I mean, we've seen that he can score goals. He can provide assists as well. He could have gotten a lot more goals, a lot more assists against Leicester. And I think this Bournemouth fixture could be really gold for Gabriel Jesus captaincy owners, guys. I think that could be a really great way to kind of differentiate yourself from the Salah captainers. Now, having said that, I don't think so Salah is a bad option. He's playing Man United, which of course you can argue that they are a much better opposition than a Bournemouth. But as far as what we've seen so far, I really don't think so. I think United are looking really shabby, really bad in defense. There are a lot more problems going on off the field. And of course, it's also kind of impacting the players on the field. So it's not a very happy situation or happy club to be at the moment. And I think a lot of teams, and especially a team with Liverpool's capabilities, I think they're going to take a lot of advantage. Salah has a good record against Man United. I think in the last 9 games, he scored about 7 goals and gotten 2 assists as well. So there are returns in there. Especially with Firmino also coming back, I think he's going to do a lot of the link-up play. And I think a player like Salah, an FPL god like Salah, I think he's going to get a lot of chances. So there is massive haul potential with the Salah this week. If you want to go safe, I think you go Salah. If you want to take a slight bit of a risk, maybe a slight bit of a punt, I think Gabriel Jesus is also a good option to go for. Now, in case if you don't want to go for these options, in case let's say if you have a Tottenham attacker, for example, I think going for a Harry Kane or a Heung-min Son is also a good strategy. It's an alternate strategy, so you'll be risking against the house. You'll be actually making a huge bet, and that may or may not come off. But I think going for a Harry Kane is also quite decent. In case if you have somebody like a KDB or a Haaland, for example, yes, the fixture against Newcastle could be a tricky one because Newcastle are a decent defense. So that might not be a very favorite captaincy option this week. But again, if you want to do things a bit differently, if you want to go a differential choice, I think going for the likes of KDB and let's say a Haaland is also a good option to go for. If I have to rank my top 3 guys, it will be Mo Salah, Gabriel Jesus, and then the Tottenham pair. I mean, whichever option that you have, I think those will be my top 3 picks for Game Week 3 in terms of captaincy. So that'll be all from my side for this video, guys. I hope I was able to give you some key tips before the Game Week 3 deadline, answer some of your dilemmas. In case I've missed anything, do let me know in the comments below. I'll try to help you out. I'll try to answer all those comments before the deadline. Now, this is not it. We also have the deadline stream just a few hours away. So do join us for that if you have any last minute questions, any last minute comments before the Game Week 3 deadline. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in Saners next time.